Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Innovation Showcase. The main purpose of this ongoing series is to inform viewers about exciting innovations and creative individuals across the fields of business, science, technology, education, and the arts. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Michael Nichols. Michael serves as the president of the Downtown Boston Alliance, a private nonprofit created and funded by property and business owners committed to revitalizing the theater district, the lab district, downtown crossing, and the financial district. During the program, in addition to learning more about the mission and vision of the Downtown Boston Alliance, we'll be finding out about Winter Interactive, the free, extremely engaging outdoor art exhibition currently on display in downtown Boston. We'll hear why and how Winter Interactive came about and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. We'll go on a behind the scenes tour and in the process come to better understand and appreciate the contributions the Downtown Boston Alliance makes to the area, as well as the importance and value of having public art in our communities. Let's start by meeting Michael and then learning about the Downtown Boston Alliance and Winteractive. Welcome, Michael. So delighted to be able to be here.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having me.
It's been so much fun reading, seeing some of the Winteractive this year, remembering the wonderful opportunities from last year. Eager to hear more and have you inform viewers. But before we jump right to that, I think it would be of interest if you just briefly share maybe a little bit more about your background, professional interest, and what your current position entails, please.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah. And I'm probably from the exact background you would expect from someone to be creating a public art program in downtown Boston. I'm a lawyer. I'm a lawyer and have been in government service, public policy, and most recently in nonprofit placemaking and place management organizations for the last 15 years or so of my career. But I got into that as someone who wanted to pair a legal background with community service, with community impact, community development, and have found that opportunity, after stints working at the legislature and the Boston City Council earlier in my career in policy roles, have been in place management now with now my third organization. I've been both with the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy, the wonderful contemporary park that sits atop the Big Dig Highway tunnel through downtown Boston. I led the Esplanade Association for 5 years as executive director, a wonderful park friends group in the state's busiest state park, the Charles River Esplanade along the Charles River. And now for the last 2.5 years have been the president of the Downtown Boston Alliance, and just thrilled to be working on behalf of not just those commercial property owners who really are the backbone of our neighborhood and in supporting our work, but everyone that touches downtown Boston has memories of past visits that come routinely today to work or shop, to dine, to catch a theater show. And for what reason we hope they're coming this winter, as many did last winter, which is to visit our Winteractive art experience.
Wonderful, wonderful. For those not as familiar, could you share a little bit about the history and mission of the Downtown Boston Alliance, please?
Certainly. So, like many major cities in America, there are associations of those who are prepared to pool their time, their energy, and their resources to take care of those places, to activate and animate them, to ensure that they are cleaner and more vibrant places. We, for many, many years before forming in our most recent iteration, were the Downtown Crossing Alliance, essentially a voluntary association of those who would contribute time and money to improving the downtown crossing area. That probably had its origins at the tail end of the combat zone years in downtown crossing, which many will remember less fondly than I think the downtown crossing of today. And so we lived that life as a voluntary association for many years. And about 15 years ago, we became one of the state's first business improvement districts. And those are actually much more structured organizations where commercial property owners essentially vote themselves into an organization that agrees to tax their properties at a slightly higher level, to pool those resources collectively into a group that exists to clean up our city streets, remove trash or graffiti or sort of one-time issues, to program and animate those streets with festivals, fairs, block parties, art exhibitions in this sense, to brand and promote the neighborhood, running social media accounts or working with those in the media to understand the offerings within downtown. And then actually most recently coming out of the pandemic, we've spent a fair amount of time thinking about economic development for the area and how we can help our owners catalyze a new generation of retailers and entertainment offerings in the downtown, and have had quite a lot of success in the last couple of years identifying new businesses like that. And so kind of all under one roof, we're an organization that thinks about the downtown Boston of today, how it can be at its best, and how to position it in the years to come.
Well, we're definitely glad you came up with the idea of Winteractive. Can you share a little bit how the Downtown Boston Alliance was inspired to pursue such an endeavor, please?
Certainly, yeah. So, one of the things we certainly spend the most of our time thinking about is when we can have our greatest impact. For those that know Boston, know spring, summer, and fall in this part of our city is bustling. Tourists following the Freedom Trail, hotels that are full, events and block parties and musicians and cultural activities on many of our plazas and in Boston Common throughout the warmer months. But we spent some time about a year and a half ago thinking about how winter is just more stubborn around here, and we have a population that knows it's coming, that winter is an eventuality in Boston, but we've never really adapted our civic programming to rise to that occasion. We have holiday lights, we have a couple of shopping markets, a couple ice skating ponds, and that's it. And we looked at what other great cold weather cities, especially in North America, were doing. And we were inspired in particular by the festivals and art exhibitions of Quebec province in Canada, who have numerous events through their winter months that encourage or cajole their skeptical population to get outside, throw on extra layers, and come together for shared experiences like art and concerts and festivals and more. And so we were inspired by that. So Winteractive was conceived as our initial effort in downtown to encourage people to kind of perform or behave in that same way, have a reason to go out into your city and to explore it in the heart of winter. And so we believed, at least initially, to start with an art-focused approach and a mix of artistic exhibitions or elements that both are beautiful to look at and add interest during the daytime hours, especially for our sort of regular tourist, resident, and office worker population, but then also things that would animate the night hours in downtown and bring light and interactivity or music, all of which help to promote perceptions of safety that literally may light the path that somebody may be walking on to and from restaurants and public transportation and other elements of our city. And really just, I think, make winter more livable. And so that combination of factors led to us launching the exhibition for the first time last year. And due to that success, we've brought it back now here in year two.
I think it goes along so well with the geometric rise in public art throughout society, especially Boston, just growing and growing every year, I'd say, for the last 15, 20 years. So a perfect fit indeed. For those who haven't had the chance to experience yet, have this wonderful overview of the many sites that we're going to enjoy here, but just a quick word about how things are laid out.
Yeah, so one of my favorite things about Winteractive is that it is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, free, and for 2.5 months. And so, we put a lot of thought into the design of the locations, matching artworks with places that are accessible for people to get to. And you can start anywhere on this route. And so despite that it's numbered, what we find is that depending on your day, where you start, what other things you have to do downtown, catching a theater show, but wanting to see 3 or 4 of these things before or after, or coming for a staycation or a Saturday in the city where you want to hit as many as you can over the course of the day. We've thought a lot about that and how people can move through the neighborhood and take them in whatever order they want. And as I mentioned before, they really do take on 2 different lives. And so if you see them during the day, I think you have one experience. If you get to enjoy them in the evening hours, then you have a totally different experience, which has led many people to come back over and over to take in the exhibition in different chunks and different pieces at different times of the day. But it is available and free all the time. And so no matter what time of day you visit downtown Boston, between now and March 30th, you'll be able to take in different elements of this experience. And really, it's an element of discovery. So it's great for all ages, but what we really find is that people love expecting that they're coming for probably one or two or three of the buzziest pieces that they saw in the news or in other places or photographs on social media. So they come for a reason, but then they find themselves wanting to discover the other elements. And so we have a lot of fun in experiencing how people see our neighborhood through those behaviors.
Well, let's start our tour. And one of the elements that's gotten a lot of publicity is this fine fellow here, Mr. Pink, who can see in a number of situations throughout the Boston area. Can you share? I think he's right here at Winthrop Center, but can you share a little bit of the background of Mr. Pink with us as we enjoy his different locations?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are 6 Mr. Pinks in the set that we brought to Boston. They are by French artist Philippe Catrin in partnership with Quebec City-based curatorial partner Ex Moreau. And this is the work of a French artist, and he believes that our society should have more cuteness in it. He calls this cuteism his inspiration for bringing characters and creatures like this, because all they are big, puffy, inflatable, pink men hanging from or sitting on top of or wedged between buildings in the otherwise harsh built environment of the urban part of our city, right? And so they are sitting here, on one of the most historic buildings in Boston, the Old Corner Bookstore, one of our very oldest buildings and a wonderful historic asset for downtown Boston. But as the first picture demonstrated, he's sitting also on our newest, tallest, most robust office tower in Winthrop Center, right in the heart of the financial district. And so, you see these characters juxtaposed in different positions, waving or pointing, wedged, climbing maybe between walls, or in this case, climbing a tree in Post Office Square Park, in the heart of the financial district. And you just have you have a lightness to you when you see these, right? Winter again is that time when we have these salt crusted roads and darker or grayer days in New England. And so when you see this pop of pink in the middle of the city, my lived experience over just these last few weeks since the Mr. Pinks were initially installed is that people can't just walk by them, right? You can't keep your head on the ground. You can't keep your head in your phone. People want to look up and just have a moment of thinking about something different, very likely happier and lighter than the seriousness of the world that surrounds us.
Oh, they're so engaging. No, you just can't
Really
help but
background.
smile looking at them.
Totally. And, we're very, very conscious of the placements. And so there's a lot of different storylines, both obvious and not, as you see them soaring over streets. Winter Street is really one here, where this character sits. Winter Street is one that, we actually feel that downtown Boston really today is quite vibrant and doing well. And we have significantly more retailers now opening new locations than ones that had been closing at the depths of the pandemic. There's a lot of energy in the neighborhood. Winter Street's probably one of the ones that has been a little slower to bounce back. There's still some great amenities and assets on that street. But this was one where we thought, let's bring visibility to that street. It is the main connecting street for pedestrians from Park Street Station into Downtown Crossing. So it's heavily foot trafficked. But we wanted to have this character really kind of show that as an exciting destination place, which may yet lead to retail interest or office tenants coming into this block, or that is a residential building to the right that it's anchored to. And so you have this mix of ingredients that I think we want to show off that Winter is a pretty great street. The Mr. Pink #1, as we sometimes call the one that is hanging off the side of Winthrop Tower, is peering into the Vermilion Club, and a terrific new restaurant by a Michelin-starred chef, John Fraser, who's opened it. And because it's on the second floor of a relatively new building, it hasn't probably permeated the consciousness yet of people who visit Boston who could take it in before heading to a theater show or a Celtics game or whatever the case may be. So we wanted to elevate the prominence of that really phenomenal dining option by having Mr. Pink kind of peer in the window and you know, it really in some angles looks like he's trying to belly up to the bar at the Vermilion Club, where they've actually debuted a special Mr. Pink menu, and you can have a Mrs. Pink cocktail while checking out Mr. Pink on the second floor of Winthrop Center.
Well, let's continue because many more incredible artists to enjoy. One more chance to relish Mr. Pink at the Hyatt Regency here.
And the Hyatt actually has a special room package throughout the rest of the exhibition. So for those that might be
Ah,
traveling from around New England to take this in, they can actually have a special art package that includes a private tour, a guided tour with our organization of the artworks on a Saturday morning.
wow. Mr. Pink would be more than enough for Winteractive. It's just scratching the surface.
Sure.
Here we see Living Lantern. Could you share a little bit about this work of art, please?
Yeah, you know, one of the other things I really love about Winteractive is that we do try to change the mediums, the messages, the look, the feel of the various elements of Winteractive. And so you go from inflatables and sort of a much more contemporary art to something like Living Lantern, which is a beautiful sculptural and really sort of like architectural design piece. And so the petals that you see adorning the Living Lantern here are kinetic. And so they are sitting at the base of Winthrop Tower. Many watching this program know the former and longtime home of Filene's Basement in
Mm.
downtown Boston. And now, you know, these steps are a popular programming venue through the warmer months, but a very prominent pedestal for public art here in the winter. And so the Living Lantern has these kinetic, very thin wooden elements that flop and flail in the wind and bring this quiet beauty and activity to downtown throughout the day, both again the daytime hours and in the evening, and then have a beautiful lighting program by Frankie Boyle of the Frankie Boyle Studio, a British-based light designer who has developed this scheme that matches in many ways the energy of the Living Lantern, which itself is by the Neon Studio, again a British combination between both the design of the piece and its lighting program.
And this next piece also has been in the news, inspired by, I think, 1962 Canadian satellite Alouette.
Yes. So the Canadian theme continues in many ways with Alouette. And so Alouette is a replica of that satellite, and it appears in many ways to possibly have fallen from the sky and landed on this sort of late model car that as a result has a dented hood and a broken, you know, a popped tire, and sits in the heart of our pedestrian zone downtown. And you know, this is easily, I think, in many ways, the most talked about piece this year. And you know, people go by it and just for the first few moments of taking this in, more often than not, have to reconcile whether they think it could be real. And that pop of fright or interest or you know, desire to understand something that feels out of place in our busy urban center is so much fun because just those couple of moments people have to take stock of the world around them. You know, this artist is also making a commentary about space waste and about nature and our you know, our society's sort of lack of commitment to preserving the assets both here on the planet and in our surrounding atmosphere that we've been entrusted with. And so you know, showing a satellite that actually today is orbiting the Earth and will descend back to Earth at some point in its existence, you know, is, I think, for this artist, a Toronto-based artist, or I should say an Ontario-based artist just outside of Toronto in Hamilton, a really interesting characterization of sort of the way our society has managed its natural assets.
Oh, it's fabulous. I can envision Mr. Pink driving the vehicle.
He could, you know, at times this has actually been ticketed by the city of Boston, and so were he to be the driver, he may have a couple of tickets to pay before he can get back behind the wheel.
For sure, for sure. Well, let's continue. This one also a good point of how it changes throughout the day. Sonic Runway.
Yes, this one, you know, is just such a appealing piece for people to come and experience, especially in the evening hours. You know, as you see right here, it totally transforms itself in the evening hours, where these lighting elements and then some music and song or tonal elements that also match the lights react to human movement through the sculpture. This phenomenal piece by a design firm, Krios, out of Canada. And, it's this kind of enchanting experience that is made all the better by sitting in front of Boston's newest landmark, the Boston City Hall building, the itself much discussed over many generations, Boston City Hall building. And animating the City Hall Plaza in this way really brings sort of a neat energy to, that expanse in Boston, which so many people know, the government center area. And so, when you walk in this area now, almost nobody walks around this, right? You see the Sonic Runway and you feel like you must walk through it, which we love because it also actually leads you to another piece within the overall Winteractive experience, Cycle, which is also by Krios.
And here we see Cycle.
Yes, and so, a relatively benign first look here. But what's really fun about this is that as people walk on the top, it begins to color change itself and also play music. And, the first tour group that I took through here, we had someone much more musically inclined than me, and it took him all of about 5 seconds to realize you could actually use this artwork as a musical instrument. And so
Wow.
he found ways where you could tap between certain elements that were close enough together to play a medley and to play a recognizable sort of tonal piece of music. And at the same time, it beckons to kids to jump on it, to touch it, to run around it. It's a very appropriate partner piece to the Sonic Runway here. Both of these hosted in partnership with the City of Boston, who are really excited to bring Winteractive on to Boston City Hall Plaza this year.
Now, two great examples of the interactive nature of several of the pieces. Wonderful, wonderful. This fascinating Celestial Garden, we have several wonderful images here.
Yeah, so, Celestial Gardens, a partnership with our friends at the Rose Kennedy Greenway Conservancy. And like City Hall Plaza, they have a plaza at Dewey Square just outside of South Station, that could benefit from sort of light and music and whimsy in the winter months. And so this is, almost like a shadow box or a diorama, but from the inside out. And so there are these this beautiful sort of scape that is set up within the largest of the orbs that sit here on Dewey Square, and then black lit to project out onto what is essentially the inside of the orb. But to passers-by, you see these really vibrant, nature-themed, creatures and diagrams that then look out onto this orb. And as you see here in this image, standing at some distance from it, you can make out a number of different scenes that actually rotate as there's elements within the inside of the orb that are circulating as the light changes. There's some music that accompanies this. There are a number of smaller orbs that set sort of mood lighting. We actually love that One Financial Center here, the building pictured up and to the left, has a very similar color set that they've been using of late, perhaps in a nod to the Celestial Garden. And this piece by Lucian, in partnership with a curatorial group called Wireframe, it really brings just an amazing amount of animation to the Dewey Square Plaza, which is probably the highest foot trafficked area of office workers getting to and from South Station. So, there's a ton of people who pass by this site each night.
One more to enjoy.
Mm.
And then keeping with Canadian influence, we have Slapshot here.
Yeah, I mean, who loves hockey more than our Canadian friends? And we're a hockey mad town here in Boston with our Bruins, but this was a really fun one by Le Mans Studio, a neat Montreal-based firm that does, essentially energy efficient or non-electrical human-powered musical elements. And so here they had a slight departure from the music, and as you turn this Winteractive logoed crank, you don't get music, but you get Bruins highlights from throughout their history. And so, Bobby Orr scores the puck, will blare from the hockey stick when you turn it with enough human-powered energy. And we partnered with the High Street Place Food Hall here, one of really our best amenities downtown, to host this piece because they're actually partnering with the Canadian consulate, the Swedish and Finnish consulates here in Boston to host pop-up watch parties for the new Four Nations Face-Off, which is an NHL-supported hockey tournament that will be hosted in both Montreal and in Boston this February, President's Day weekend. And so, it's fun because they'll have the game watches. They've got this large hockey stick outside, and you get a little slice of Bruins history every time you come in and out of this food hall.
Nice, nice. And then we have a couple of pieces by the artist Mike Geiger.
Yeah, he's really an incredibly interesting person who has done a number of animation work throughout his career. He's currently working on a Nickelodeon show. You know,
Mm.
he's that rare artist by day, artist by night person. And his public art is his sort of side passion project when when he's not collaborating to create television shows that are themselves just wonderfully creative. And so here we have Nature's Solace. This is actually a brand new commission for us, a worldwide debut.
Mm.
Many of our artworks have been previously created and are touring the world, but this is actually one he created just for us. It's placed outside the New England Aquarium, some of our leaders within the New England region on the responsible consideration of the planet and nature. And this piece is speaking a little bit to these protectors of nature. And so you see their warm and happy glow, but it's juxtaposed with elements of nature that have been hidden within at the top and the bottom that these characters are protecting. And the artist will tell you that he feels a lot of nature-focused art can be quite heavy-handed in the way it tries to get those narratives across. And both this piece and the other one that he is allowing us to show here, Nature's Glow, in front of the Macy's in downtown Crossing, each of them, are involving themselves in these themes of the fragility of nature, but in a much more accessible and understated way than I think many of the other artworks that Mike Geiger has experienced. And so this one, I don't know. We went by it last night as a staff after an activity in the evening hours, and this glow it radiates in front of Macy's, and it's just so happy that we love watching people take photos in front of this one.
Fabulous, fabulous. And here we have Winter Messenger, wonderful close-up here of
And the close-up really helps. So this is by a BU visual arts professor. And what we were inspired by with this is that this mural wall also sits pretty close to that last sculptural piece, but it sits on the side of the Macy's facade. And from a distance, you don't see the Winter Messenger. And there's this beautiful, tranquil, slow speed scene where this beautiful deer is sort of hiding amidst a hefty North American, Canadian, or New England snow, and just happens to sort of pop out. And Brian James, the professor and the artist behind this piece, is trying to kind of bring this pastoral, snowy winter scene to life. And we just think it's fun for us to see people explore and find the deer rather than just believe it's sort of a nice landscape.
Mm, mm. And I know there's two art pieces by Brandy Satterley also on display, currently being debuted, that visitors can look forward to. I mean, there's so much more we could talk about. I know the impact has been tremendous last year. It's off to an incredible start this year. And just want to encourage people to make their way down. Lots of time to enjoy these incredible public art opportunities. Congratulations, Michael, to you and others associated with Downtown Boston Alliance for bringing this to the city of Boston.
Thank you, Jay. It's really been our pleasure. There are a number of partners that go into this experience. Meet Boston, our local tourism body, partnering with Bonjour Quebec, our partners in Quebec, and many others. Folks can get more information at winteractive.org. But for as much as I tried to do it justice today, nothing compares to seeing it in person. So we'd love to welcome you downtown to see Winteractive and to visit our hotels, our restaurants, and so much more.
Most definitely. We'll have that information as well as connection to Downtown Boston Alliance and the credits. So thanks again, Michael, for your time and continued success with future endeavors.
Thank you, Jay. Thanks for having me.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.